Hey everyone, and welcome to this Animal Notebook Explainer. Today we're turning the spotlight onto some of the absolute hardest working, yet totally underappreciated creatures on the planet. We're talking about vultures, vital guardians of nature, and I promise you, by the end of our time together, we are going to completely flip how you view these incredibly vital birds.
Section 1. Meet nature's misunderstood scavengers.
All right, let's just dive right into this. When you hear the word vulture, I know what you're probably thinking. Death, decay, maybe some creepy, hunched-over bird just waiting for doom, right? We've really got to confront that negative stereotype head-on, because honestly, while I get their grim reputation in pop culture, vultures aren't the villains of the natural world. They're just doing a really messy, absolutely essential job. We kind of need to soften how we see them before we can truly appreciate the incredible biological machinery going on underneath. Now, if we flip the script and look at how they actually operate in the wild, you see their true majesty. Just think about that impressive wingspan. Vultures are exceptional soarers. They use those massive, broad wings to ride on thermal air currents, which are basically just invisible columns of rising warm air. This lets them travel massive distances while expending almost zero energy. They aren't magically signaling death from above. They're just expertly and very efficiently surveying huge stretches of terrain.
Section 2. A Tale of Two Worlds. So what's truly amazing here is how these birds evolved to do the exact same job across completely different parts of the globe. It's a brilliant illustration of a fascinating biological concept called convergent evolution. This is what happens when entirely unrelated species independently figure out and evolve the exact same traits to adapt to similar environments. You see, the term vulture actually refers to two completely separate groups of birds. They literally are not closely related at all. And yet they developed the exact same scavenging toolkit to solve nature's waste management problems. It's like a biological parallel universe. If we peek at their family trees, over on one side we have Old World vultures in the family Acciptridae. These guys are actually close cousins to hawks and eagles, and you'll find them across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Think of your griffin in Egyptian vultures. Then, on the totally opposite side, we have New World vultures in the Cathartidae emily, which some biologists actually classify closer to storks. These are the ones living in North and South America, giving us species like the turkey vulture and the massive Andean condor. Completely different family trees, but the exact same vital mission.
Section 3. Incredible biological superpowers.
Now, carrying out that shared mission requires some serious hardware. Let's take their iconic, bald, featherless heads. That is not just some ugly aesthetic choice. It actually acts exactly like a sterile surgeon's mask. Because they're feeding deep inside messy, decaying carcasses, having bare skin is essential. Dangerous bacteria simply can't cling to skin the way they'd cling to feathers. But it gets crazier. Internally, their stomach acid has a pH of roughly 1. That is highly acidic, way more corrosive than our own stomachs. This insane internal environment is literally a biological superpower, letting them safely digest rotting, contaminated meat without getting sick.
Okay, now here is a really interesting, if slightly gross, behavior called urohydrosis. Yes, this means they urinate on their own legs. I know, why on earth would they do that? Well, as the liquid evaporates, it acts as a phenomenal air conditioning system when they're out in the blistering heat. But beyond that, remember how acidic their waste is? It actually acts as a built-in sanitizing station. It kills off any lingering bacteria they might have picked up from standing right inside a rotting carcass. Nature's hand sanitizer, right on their legs.
Section 4. The ultimate cleanup crew.
All of these bizarre but brilliant biological adaptations make them perfectly suited as nature's sanitation workers. Just think about the deadly diseases that are completely neutralized inside a vulture's stomach. We're talking botulinum, anthrax, cholera, rabies. A flock of feeding vultures, which is called a wake, can strip a carcass down to the bone in under an hour. By rapidly consuming decaying flesh before it can foster and leak these horrible pathogens into the soil and the water supply, vultures act as a total dead end for disease. They are quite literally protecting human and animal health across the entire food web.
Section 5. The Global Vulture Crisis.
Unfortunately, the very creatures protecting us desperately need our protection right now. They are among the most threatened groups of birds in the world. And this next statistic is just absolutely shocking. 99%. That represents the catastrophic population crash of several Gibbs vulture species in parts of South Asia during the 90s and 2000s. It is one of the most dramatic, devastating bird population crashes we have ever documented. And the cause? A veterinary anti-inflammatory drug called diclofenac that was given to livestock. When the vultures fed on those treated cows, they suffered fatal kidney failure.
And sadly, that's really just one piece of the puzzle. Globally, vultures are facing a massive barrage of threats. Over in Africa, there is a severe crisis stemming from poisoning, both accidental and intentional. Poachers will actually deliberately poison carcasses specifically to kill vultures. Why? Because a flock of circling birds acts like a giant beacon, alerting wildlife rangers to their illegal poaching sites. Throw in rampant habitat loss and deadly collisions with power lines and wind turbines, and the situation is incredibly dire.
But there's a softer side to these tough scavengers. You see mother vultures carefully feeding their fluffy chicks, and it's a reminder of a key conservation challenge. While their biology makes them incredibly robust eaters, they actually have a naturally very slow reproduction rate. Large raptors like these produce tiny broods and invest immense parental care into each and every chick. This means population recovery takes a really, really long time. But with dedicated conservation efforts, things like drug bans, captive breeding programs, and protected feeding sites, recovery is absolutely possible. I mean, just look at the California condor. It's living proof that we can bring them back from the brink if we try.
Section 6. Frequently asked questions. Okay, let's wrap this up with a rapid-fire FAQ finale to satisfy some of the biggest lingering questions you might have about these magnificent birds. First up, just how high can a vulture actually fly? We know they're incredible at soaring on those thermal currents, but what are their absolute physical limits up there in the sky? Well, this fact is simply mind-blowing. The Rupel's vulture currently holds the altitude record, having been recorded flying at over 37,000 feet. To put that into perspective, that is soaring high enough to match the cruising altitude of a commercial passenger airplane. No way, right? But it's true.
Next question. What are the largest species of vultures? Who are the absolute heavyweights of the scavenging world?
That crown easily goes to the Andean condor and the cinereous vulture. These giants are truly, truly massive. The Andean condor, in particular, boasts a wingspan that can reach up to 10.5 feet across. That makes it one of the largest wingspans of any bird currently living on Earth. Question 3. What do you call a group of vultures? We know they are highly social animals that love to gather in large numbers. So what is their specific collective noun?
Well, it actually depends entirely on what they're doing at the time. When you see a group of them gracefully flying and circling up in the sky, they're called a kettle. When they are down on the ground aggressively feeding on a carcass, they're called a wake. And when they're just resting quietly together in a tree digesting, they're called a committee.
And our final question to clear up a very common misconception about how they find their food. Do all vultures lack a sense of smell? The answer here takes us right back to our friend convergent evolution. Old world species are strictly visual hunters. They use keen eyesight to spot a meal from way up high. But New World species, particularly the turkey vulture, have developed an exceptionally strong sense of smell. This lets them sniff out the odor of a carcass hidden deep under a thick forest canopy. We've seen today just how perfectly adapted these birds are, whether through sight, smell, or stomach acid, to keep our world clean. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Knowing that they single-handedly destroy outbreaks of anthrax, rabies, and cholera before they can spread, what would a diseased, overflowing world look like if we failed to protect these vital guardians of nature?